On March 23rd, 2025, you became the Conservative candidate for Don Valley North. The next day, the RCMP attended to your home to warn you that they had intercepted credible threats to your safety. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is accurate.
And the RCMP contacted you at another point to tell you that it was no longer safe to canvass door to door. Is that correct?
Not at that moment.
No, I'm talking about later in the campaign.
Yes. That was, you are correct, accurate.
And so, can you explain a little bit about what happened there? As I understand it, you had to check in, or the RCMP would check in with you to tell you on a day-to-day basis whether it was safe for you to go door to door. Is that accurate?
Yes, I think especially when I was visited by the RCMP, since then on, I reported their visitation to the Conservative Party of Canada, the headquarters. So we have a discussion and communication between RCMP with the Conservative Party of Canada was established to exchange information to make sure every day the updates of any threats will be advised to me, so that whether I will go out to do door knocking or canvassing, it really depends on the day-to-day basis safety advice.
So just to get an understanding of the level of threats, you were followed, correct?
Yes.
Your residence was surveilled?
My residence there was one incident I remember is.
And that was with a vehicle, right?
With a vehicle. It's strangely that when we almost come home, there was a strange car, because we know a neighborhood really well, and we never seen a car like that. So my wife was smart enough to ask me, hey, maybe we turn one more round and come back with another angle. That car has parked already closer to our house, and actually just outside a driveway. And yeah.
And volunteers were harassed and intimidated.
Yes or no answer. Yes or no. We're already over.
Yes or no.
Yes.
Today is Monday, January 12th. My name is Miloš Krajšnik. As everybody knows, Carney is heading to Beijing to open up trade talks with none other than Xi Jinping. But Canada is going to China, guys, because we have no leverage. This is really what's going on. Canada has no leverage. And this week, Mark Carney is flying to China for the first time in more than 8 years, guys. It's been almost a decade. And the last time was with blackface Justin Trudeau. And he just quite simply wasn't able to get into any kind of form of communication with Xi, because Xi just quite simply just didn't respect the guy. But this whole trip with Carney is being framed as diversification, as market expansion, strategic diplomacy, guys. But this framing is completely wrong. This trip isn't about strength. It's really about exposure. And Canada is not choosing China from a position of confidence. Canada is testing how far it can stretch its principles, because its economic leverage has quite simply collapsed. Guys, this is what's happening here all at once. You know, everybody knows Canada is facing American protectionism, tariffs, and we have this unresolved trade uncertainty with the USMCA or CUSMA. Investment is stalling, market access is no longer guaranteed, and so this really forced Ottawa to look outward, right? We need new trade partners. This is the new philosophy in Ottawa. I mean, we need new trade partners in general. We do. But this is the big philosophy. We're gonna give, the finger to the US by, expanding trade overnight globally and supplanting $1 trillion in trade with somebody else. But guess, it's China this week. It's going to be Qatar right after that. And then he's going to Davos. He's going to the World Economic Forum. And so, these aren't separate trips. This is a global sales pitch tournament that Carney is running on, right? He's going and he's pitching Canada to everybody. He's saying to the world, guys, we're open for capital. We're stable. We have resources, and we are a safe jurisdiction to invest in. But really, guys, behind all of this, behind this big sales pitch that he's running, there's really a deeper seated problem, and it's that Canada is no longer negotiating from strength, and everyone at the table knows this. It goes, Mark Carney will visit China next week for the first time to the country by a Canadian Prime Minister in more than 8 years, as he seeks to rekindle relations with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The Prime Minister, looking for new export markets because of an increasingly protectionist United States under President Donald Trump, is trying to patch up ties with Beijing after a severe diplomatic rupture and years of Canada barring state-owned Chinese companies from investing or operating here. Guys, just quite simply, this paragraph really highlights everything, what's going on here. We had this diplomatic rupture with the Chinese because, well, quite frankly, they wanted to install 5G towers across Canada. And when you have control of somebody's internet, you can basically spy on everybody in the country, right? Not only in the country, but whoever your internet is communicating with outside of the country as well. And in this case, it would be the US. Most things that happen in Canada happen in terms of investment and all of that happen, especially foreign direct investment. The majority of it happens so that these companies can gain access to the US market. They might come to Canada, invest in Canada because Canada gave them subsidies, like the Toyota plant in Cambridge, Ontario. Canada might be subsidizing it, right? So they're like, okay, it's going to be cheaper for us to manufacture it here, but we're on the border with the US, so it's going to be very easy to ship millions of cars into the US. That is what most companies do. And this is the key here, right? And the rupture happened when Donald Trump pushed Blackface Justin to arrest the Huawei CFO. It says it's a significant pivot for Canada, get a load of this, which only 12 months ago received the final report from a public inquiry into foreign interference by China and other countries. Marie-Jose Hogue, its commissioner, said at the time she wrote the report that China was the most active perpetrator of foreign interference targeting Canada's democratic institutions. So these guys are actively interfering with everything Canadian. Anything that has to do with Canada, China's interfering. We got this report 12 months ago, and now we're trying to thaw ties with China. This is worse than being tariffed. Like, this is someone's actively trying to influence you, your internal politics. And this is what the Chinese really do. This is how they operate. They tie in with you economically, and then they're just like, you can't say this. We don't want you to do that. And you're like, and then they're like, oh yeah, well, we're gonna pull your 5G towers. Go have fun screwing around with 3G networks. So it goes, the Prime Minister wants to boost Chinese trade and investment, particularly in the energy sector, and to resolve a painful trade war over tariffs Canada imposed on electrical vehicles from China. But his challenge will be cutting deals or opening doors for Chinese investment without alienating Mr. Trump, who expects allies to support his tough on China agenda, analysts say. First of all, Trump, in his first term, when he didn't have the support that he had, forced Blackface Justin to arrest that Huawei CFO. What's going to happen? And he stopped a massive EV plant being manufactured in Mexico by the Chinese government. So, what does he think is going to happen if he makes a deal for electrical vehicles to come into Canada? Those electrical vehicles coming into Canada are going to come into Canada so that they can sell into the U.S. What does he think is going to happen? That he's going to be able to go into the USMCA trade talks willy-nilly and get what he wants? No, man, Trump's going to tell him to fuck off. That's what he's going to do. He's going to tell him, hey, buddy, grow up. This isn't how this is going to work. And the tariffs are just going to stay. And Canadians are just going to continue suffering because we are suffering. We're not in a good place. And it's all because of these short-sighted incapable politicians that we have in government. It goes, Mr. Carney, who last fall praised China as a country run by engineers, is looking for new sources of foreign capital as Mr. Trump's protectionist tariffs on Canadian products have cast a chill over business investment. First of all, Canada used to be run by engineers. Canada used to be run by engineers. Why would he be praising the Chinese for being run by engineers when we used to be run by engineers? Why isn't Canada run by engineers anymore? Why is no one in government asking themselves why Canada isn't run by engineers anymore? Why aren't we producing anything? What Canadian products? The Canadian products that go to the US, they're all basically raw materials, some secondary. We sell no finished goods to the US. This isn't like every article that I read always paints Canada as we have all these great products that are just, they're just being stopped. No, we don't do anything. We sell raw materials. So much so that, it gets down here. Let me find it real quick. Right here. It says, Mr. Carney and Mr. Xi began a rapprochement at an October meeting on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea. This visit will expand on this new relationship, even as Canada maintains 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs and China keeps punishing levies on Canadian agriculture from canola to seafood. So we're trying to sell China food, essentially. That's our big thing. We're going to sell them food, right? And we're going to get advanced technology from them. This is really that trade relationship that we're supposed to be building here. And I feel for the food exporters, right? Our agriculture's taken a massive hit. But really, that's really how you guys want to play this. And so this is also funny here, and then I'm going to elaborate on my thoughts a bit. Qatar's fast-growing sovereign. So he's after China, he's planning to go to Qatar to pick at Qatar's the massive investment funds that the Qataris have, right? So they manage about a $550 billion investment profile, right? This sovereign investment fund is based off of Qatari oil, okay? Qatar doesn't nearly have as much oil as Canada does. Canada literally has, it's either number 2 or it's number 3, right below Venezuela. It's literally Venezuela, I think it might be Saudi Arabia and then Canada, or it's Venezuela, Canada. I'm not 100% sure on that. But for instance, Canada has more than twice the known oil reserves than Russia. But Russia's the gas station running as a country. Okay. Qatar, who has significantly less oil reserves than Canada, is running a $550 billion sovereign wealth fund. They're running trillions of dollars they have. Norway also has $1 trillion sovereign wealth fund run by oil. Norway's oil is nowhere comparable with the amount that Canada does. So why are we asking anybody for money when we have everything that we need to make the money from? This is what I mean when I call our politicians incapable, because no one treats their natural resources this way. No one treats their country in the manner that Canadian politicians have been treating Canada. It's a sovereignty versus dependency argument, right? Let's start with the sovereignty part. Sovereignty isn't just, we're an independent nation. Sovereignty are steps you take as a nation to make sure that no one can pressure you in any way. That's economically, militarily, intelligence, whatever. Canada is structurally dependent on US market access. That dependency has been exposed by tariffs and protectionism, and Canada can't set industrial policy independently without blowback from Washington. This is just simply it. And we've seen this so many times. So Ottawa is testing China now as a counterweight. But here's the reality that, honestly, I think needs to be said plainly. China is not an alternative pole of sovereignty, guys. It's a different form of dependency. The Chinese are very explicit with their political conditions that they attach, because the Chinese have a whole bunch of human rights abuses that they have. They want to take over Taiwan, and these are those political pressures that the Chinese are going to put on you, guys. This isn't diversification in a strategic sense. Canada is leverage shopping. It's not asking who do we choose, who do we sell to. Canada is asking who will still deal with us. That's what Canada is asking. Who's still going to deal with us, right? And so this isn't a position of strength. This is really a warning signal. Guys, Canada still has a 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs, electric vehicles. China still has punitive tariffs on Canadian agriculture. There is no free trade agreement between the two countries. There is no trust baseline. There's no security alignment. There's nothing. So what is Canada actually trying to get here? The realistic outcome is probably going to be very limited. It's going to be symbolic reopenings of dialogue. There's going to be more pictures like the one you see on the screen. Mark Carney with a big smile on his face. Xi looking to the side because, he doesn't respect any Canadian politician. There's going to be selective relief for our agriculture. There's going to be signaling to Chinese state-owned firms and sovereign funds. There's going to be photo opportunities aimed at global capital audiences, right? He's trying to send a message, we can deal with the Chinese, we can deal with you as well. It's all just political posturing. It's all political posturing. But this is not replacing the United States as a market, because we can't. This is trying to be damage control. And here's really where the deeper issue lies. Canada is implicitly offering China raw inputs, food, energy, and resources, guys. In return, Canada hopes for technology, batteries, and advanced manufacturing investment. That doesn't sound like a partnership of equals to me. Hey, let me give you some food, and why don't you sell me a car for the food I'm selling you? Really? Really? Wow. What a great trade-off. What a great trade-off. And one side is exporting low-margin replaceable inputs, and the other is exporting high-margin strategic systems. This should really bother Canadians. Honestly, this China trip, the Qatar trip, and the Davos story, guys, this is all one story, right? Canada is running around the world pitching itself as a destination for global capital, okay? But investors are all going to ask one question. First, can Canada guarantee access to the US market? Guys, without clarity on the USMCA, without tariff certainty, without industrial stability, capital does not hesitate emotionally. It's very calculated. It prices risk or it stays away, guys. China knows this. The Qataris know this. Every global fund knows this, which means Canada is already going to the negotiating table from a weakened position. That shapes every conversation before a word is even spoken. Everybody knows how they're going to pressure point Canada. And the main thing is there's a silent trade-off here, guys, that the article doesn't really mention. But it does in one line, right? And I think this is really the most dangerous part of this story because Canadians pride themselves on being humanitarians, right? Our government does as well, right? But China routinely conditions market access on silence. Silence on Taiwan, silence on human rights, silence on internal repressions, silence on foreign interference. China doesn't demand alignment, guys. It demands non-resistance. Non-resistance. So the question Canadians should ask is simple. What quietly disappears from Ottawa's vocabulary if this reset proceeds? Because tariffs are visible, silence is not. And silence has a cost that compounds over time. And I want to kind of touch back on that trade imbalance because I think this is a really deeper embedded signal in this trip that Canadians shouldn't ignore. Canada is presenting food and raw materials as leverage. Guys, this in itself should alarm people. China already has deep food and grain ties with Russia and elsewhere. Agriculture is a pressure tool for Beijing. It's not a necessity. They're not going to die. There is literally a rail connection between Moscow to Beijing, and it's like 5 million tons of food cargo, foodstuffs that can be transported via rail. Okay, so when Ottawa frames food exports as bargaining power, It is admitting something very uncomfortable. We don't have anything to trade. But Canada has lithium, we have nickel, we have cobalt, we have graphite, we have energy, we have water, and we have skilled labor. But we're talking about importing batteries and clean tech instead of building it here. Guys, this isn't fate. This is literally policy failure. And then China is a nation of engineers. Well, what the fuck? What the hell, man? What are we? And this is the way I see it, guys. This is the real indictment here. A serious country does not trade food and raw materials for finished technology when it has the inputs to make that technology itself. That is how countries lock themselves into dependency. And quite honestly, this is what I think where Canada is right now. China understands this dynamic. The US understands it. Russia understands. Everybody seems to understand it. But Canada keeps behaving as if it doesn't. To close it off, guys, this episode, it's not about demonizing China, right? China does what China does, right? It's about confronting Canada's weaknesses honestly. And Canada is not resetting its China relationship from strength. It is testing how much principal it can afford to spend because its economic leverage has quite simply, it's just eroded, right? And that erosion, that stuff doesn't happen overnight, guys. It came from years of failing to turn resources into industry, right? It comes from mistaking access for sovereignty, of believing market goodwill could replace hard capability. A hopeful country fixes that. We take steps to fix it. It does not shop around for more dependencies. So if Canada wants real sovereignty, we have to build it. Because when a country trades food for technology, it is admitting it no longer believes in its own industrial future. And that is the question Canadians should be asking before this plane ever leaves the ground. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Stay informed, stay curious, and God bless Canada.
This is Canada. Maple syrup and La Cabin, kick your ass all hockey season,